Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase podcast. Today we have with us Deb Porter. Deb is the founder of Hold and hearingoutLifeDrama.com. She is also the creator of a course called Listen Your Way to Deeper Connections. I'm really excited to learn about what that's about. Welcome, Deb. It's really great to have you with us. I'm going to have to put on my listening ears and be really good about this today. Feel like it's a test.
Oh my goodness, Jill. No, thank you so much, first of all, for having me. What a gift. And no, there's no test.
Oh, great. So tell us your story. I know it's pretty interesting how you got started and when you got started. It's pretty unusual, actually.
Okay, so the story is this is always interesting for me because I prefer listening to speaking, and so I usually do okay with one-on-one conversations. But here we go. So I actually felt called to ministry when I was 19. I really wanted to help people, and so I went to seminary. I got my degree, a 96-hour of degree, and with a specialization in care and counseling. And I was working in the church full time in my late 20s, and a family member came out to me. And at the same time that this family member came out, the church trials were going on in Illinois. My colleagues, friends of mine, were being put on church trial, and they were being stripped of their ordination and of their pensions. And there was all of this discord and unhappiness. And I sat back and looked at all of that and said, if my family member ever asks me to marry them, what will I say? And my answer was, of course I would. Of course. There's not even a question or a pause there, of course. And so I decided the church was not the place for me to stay. And so I left ministry. At the time, my daughter was 1. And when she had been born, we discovered that the genetic condition that had resulted in the death of my husband at the time, his 2 siblings, he actually had that genetic condition. We had been told prior that he couldn't possibly have it because he wasn't dead. And so that was a bit of a shift for us. And we were adapting to all of that too. At that time, there was a lot going on around that as we tried to wrap our heads around what that would look like for our future. When my daughter was 3, he almost died. Was 21 days in and out of 5 different intensive care units. It was quite difficult, and managed to get through that. And then, interestingly, after that experience, he's like, "I want another child. I want to see if we can have a son." That's a bad idea. You almost just died, and now you want to have another child. I'm not sure I'm up for that. And so I'm like, let's talk to the doctor, your geneticist, and find out what the prognosis is, what should we expect? Because obviously I want to live our life together, but I just don't know about this. And so we sat down with his doctor, and she said the most impactful thing. She said, Deb, she's like, you can walk out into the street and get hit by a bus today. How are you going to live your life? Are you going to live in fear? Or are you going to live in hope? That's powerful for me. That was really, really powerful. And so I made a choice. I said, okay, I'm going to live in hope. I'm not going to live in fear. I don't want to do that. In fact, the name that we chose for our son actually means conqueror, because I was conquering my fear. So anyway, so we moved on, and we had our son, and we had our family. And then my husband again got very, very ill, critically ill. And for 8 years, it was every day trying to keep him alive. And I was very determined for our kids that I would do that because I wanted them to have the experience of this person in their life. He felt he had so much to offer them and so much to teach them. And I wanted us to be a family. And so I worked with the doctors. I never gave up, and tried to find a solution for him. Eventually, we did. We were successful, and he got better. And unfortunately, as he got better, the marriage fell apart. Could not sustain the reentry. I think of it like a rocket ship. It was like some serious reentry back into wellness, and all the things that got shaken up. I'd taken over everything. I'd been doing all of the things for years, and we just could not find a balance that worked. And so we decided we would part, and we were divorced. And at the time I was working at a funeral home. Really, really, really loved my funeral home job. That hit so many of the boxes for me because I was able to listen to people, and I was there when they really needed help. And then the funeral home came to those of us who were working there, and they said, "We're changing the compensation plan we promised you that you've been receiving. We're going with this other pre-need plan, and instead we're going to give you a $25 gift card for the pre-needs that you sell, instead of the cash bonus that we were getting." And almost all of us said, "Thank you, goodbye." That's not that wasn't the agreement. And so
Hard to live on gift cards.
Right? How do you do the gift card out? Like, no. Right? Yeah, no, just no. Anyway, so at the time I was reading a book that was really focused on imagination. Many of your listeners may know it, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And that chapter on imagination really got me. And I was like, okay, if I could just do anything in my life, I was almost 50. I was like, if I could do anything, I'm 52 now. If I could do anything, what is it that I'd want to do? And I thought, wow, what if I just listen? What happens if I just listen? And so that was the genesis of Hold. And reached out to a good friend that I knew, Linda Nielsen. And I said, "Linda, will you come build this thing with me?" And she said, she's 10 years older than I am. And she said, "Wow, really? You want me?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I totally want you." And so she said yes, and here we are. Still going a couple of years later. So that's the story.
That's amazing. I love that so much. And when I hear Hold, it makes me think of pausing. And in a pause, you do listen. Is that kind of where you came up with that name, or is there a different story behind that?
Well, the name of the business was really hard because we were like, well, we could name it Vent, but then we started looking and we're like, we get air conditioning vents and all kinds of things. And so
Right.
it's really, really hard. And so, but hearing out life drama and using the letters for the acronym Hold,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
that just really fit for me. And so, and it wasn't Linda's first choice, I don't think, to be honest, but she's like, okay, we'll go with that. So
I really like it. It does speak to me.
Yeah.
Of what it's the acronym for, even though I apparently didn't recognize it was an acronym.
Yeah, lots of people miss it. Don't feel bad, Jill. We're good.
I'm really bad with acronyms to begin with. I mean, I people throw acronyms around, and I'm constantly trying to search my mind for what did that mean? I forget.
Yeah, I actually encourage people in their communication to use it as little as possible, simply because of that reason. It's like people will miss if you're not clear in your communication. So yeah.
Well, when you use acronyms, people tend to stop listening because they're trying to figure out what that acronym means. So there's a gap between when you were talking, you said the acronym, and then you said something afterwards. And during that, until they can connect that in their brain with what you were trying to impart with that part, even if they're listening really intently to you, and then they have to catch back up and they start hearing again from that point where, okay, now it's registered. my brain's done doing that little piece of exercise. And then it takes a minute for them to like reconnect with what you're saying because they missed the piece that came afterwards. It's kind of like when you tell a kid don't do something, they miss the don't. Young kids, they miss the don't. So if you want a child to stop doing something, you need to say it in a positive way, like go do this instead of don't do that, because they will continue doing whatever it was that you said don't do, because it just doesn't register with them that it's supposed to be a cessation versus a continuation. They don't have the ability to juxtapose that situation.
Yeah.
It was a little thing that I learned, I think it was with my third child. It really was helpful because it keeps you from being frustrated.
Yeah.
So there are some skills along with listening that make it easier for people to hear you.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
So tell us a little bit about your course. What is it? What is it about? How does it work? How do you work with people?
Yeah, so Listen Your Way to Deeper Connections is a 21-day master course. And so it's a drip course every day for 21 days. You'll get something in your inbox. It consists of video as well as written material, assessments, resources, all the good things. And it's intended to be about 15 minutes a day so that anybody can find 15 minutes, even a busy mom, you can find 15 minutes. You can, during your lunch even, I mean, you can, we just really wanted it to be accessible and not overwhelming because there's a lot there and there's a lot to learn and practice. And so it's really intended to help people become a better listener. As you know, so often people think, well, I'm a good listener, but when I then ask the question, have you ever been taught active listening? And it usually brings people up short because according to listen.org, only 2% of people in our nation have ever had any training in active listening. And so, no, most people haven't. And that's kind of the beauty of what I think we're presenting to the world is an opportunity to learn these skills. You know, even I was on another podcast and they were psychologists, and I said, "Did you have any training in active listening before you got into your higher level of the program?" And they're like, "No, I didn't." And so it's really not something that you get unless you're going to be in that field. So,
Or sales?
sometimes salespeople, yes, and actually, salespeople understand that listening is important, but even among them, I find a large openness to what I'm teaching because they know they should, but some of them still haven't been taught how.
Yeah, they just don't know how.
Yeah.
It's one of those skills that it's not hard, but once you learn it, it really does change your life, and it changes your ability to understand what people are actually saying to you, which is it's empowering on both sides of the conversation.
Huh? Yes, it is. Absolutely. 100%. I'm so excited to hear you say that because you get it. Yeah. Yes, it does. That's what I want to do. I want to change people's lives for the better because when you really do listen well, it changes all of those relationships with your spouse, with your kids, in your work, whatever it is that you're doing. It impacts everything because suddenly you're communicating on a deeper level. Everybody thinks that business, the foundation of business is relationships. Well, the foundation of relationships is communication, and the foundation of that is listening.
Yes. And being able to take that information and synthesize it in a way that helps both of you progress further along a path.
Yeah.
So that you can work together instead of just, yeah, I think I heard what you said, instead of repackaging it, restating it, giving it back to them and saying, this is what you were saying. This is what I think I understood you were saying. And it gives them an opportunity to correct what you think you heard too, which is hugely helpful whenever you're trying to like do anything, even if it's like going to the grocery store. What do you guys want for dinner next week? Oh, I'd like, hamburger something. Well, let's talk about the hamburger something. What does
Yes.
that look like to you? You get ideas.
Yeah.
But it's the give and take, and being able to have a conversation. You can't really have a conversation with people if they're not listening, if they're not feeding stuff back to you.
Yeah. I love that you just touched on that. It's one of the things we touch on in the course, of course, is asking good questions, and open-ended question versus closed-ended questions, and all of that good stuff is there. So yeah, I love that you're so in tune, and obviously a really good listener who's had some training yourself. That's good.
Yeah, I've done a lot of podcasts. So you get to practice.
Indeed. Indeed.
So I know you have a free offer for people. It's called the Runaway Freight Train. And I told you before we got started that I was going to ask you about the name of that. It's really fascinating. So what's that all about?
So the Runaway Freight Train Brain is a free mini course, and it actually started out as just a video, and I was like, oh, but I have so much more to say. And so then we built it out into a course. I was like, this would be really, really good for people, and there's some meat here that we can really offer. And so I was very excited about it. The Runaway Freight Train Brain came about because so many people in my world have brains that are like that. They're highly gifted people who think really quickly, and so they have trouble staying focused on the conversation. And so what this mini course is about is practical help, very practical, specific help to help you stay on track so that you can listen in those conversations and your brain isn't that runaway freight train brain.
Sometimes it's hard, I think, for people to just like slow down and focus. It's hard to just be. And the practice of being is so important when you're listening to people. Just staying connected to them while they're talking, even if they speak really slowly.
Mhm.
Because some people they're just go, 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 go. I don't have time to listen to your really long story that you're trying to communicate to me some piece of information. And so they miss so much of what is being said because they're often their own thoughts instead of being connected to the conversation. I think that's really helpful. And I'm assuming that you're giving them tools and exercises to practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Check it out. Check it out.
I will check it out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Let me know what you think. I'd love
I,
to have feedback. I'd love to hear.
I would love that. So we were talking a little bit about all of the things that you have to know, get to know. You reframed it for me. When you're an entrepreneur these days. And it's really like in the last year or so that AI has like taken over. You want to talk about that for a minute?
Oh my word.
Acting your business.
Oh, that has been the number one challenge for me as a business owner, is all of the things to learn in order to keep the business afloat. So for example, there have been so many programs when we started. So I'm a listener. That's what I do. Like, I'm really good at that, but I didn't know anything about building a website, and I needed to do this affordably. So Wix was my choice. And that meant, starting with a template and trying to figure it out, and then realizing, oh no, I don't have any graphic design at all. And this is not good. And then going through a couple of iterations of that. And uh, obviously, since GPT came out, that's helped some in terms of, because I'm not a marketer either. It's like, how do you synthesize and say this in a way? So there's one woman that I met who recommended Donald Miller's book, Building a Story Brand. And so GPT actually knows Donald Miller's story brand. And so you can say, hey, give me this copy and story brand. That's actually really helpful when you're trying to build a landing page. But I mean, if you'd have told me 3 years ago that I'd be building landing pages, I'd have laughed at you. No. but now we're doing it, and Linda and I, I mentioned she's 10 years older than I am. She's 62, I'm 52. We're figuring it out because that's the beauty of our brains, is we have the capability to learn.
Yeah, we do. And it's kind of fun to me anyway, going through all of these challenges to learn and see the different iterations that are coming along. I'm 63. So
Are
I
you?
remember
Okay.
the internet when it first started.
Right?
Like I was one of AWeber's first customers. I
Uh-huh.
was online before Google was a thing.
Uh-huh.
We did dial-up internet.
Yes.
With a
Yes, we did.
telephone that was a
A
landline. It
landline.
was
Yes, we
even
did.
before cell phones
Oh
were a
my God.
thing.
Yes, it was. Mm-hmm.
So when I see all of this stuff coming, it's just like, oh, that's really interesting. And it's like an onslaught of all of these new and different technologies. Like, I'm really familiar with Wix and Shopify and all of these kind of canned websites that you can build with templates. And I'm really good at WordPress.
Mm-hmm.
Because I preferred it over most of these other ones, but I've built websites for people. That's what I was doing in the before. So it's really interesting to me to see all of these iterations coming along and the AI, how it's being used in a variety of ways. It's way more than just Chat GPT.
Yes.
There are companies that are springing up that are using it to do just specific um, niches or professions. That's really helpful for them. And I'm I'm kind of twofold in what my thoughts on it. And one of them is that I'm concerned that maybe ChatGPT is going to end up being a circular reference, because as more and more people use that verbiage from there, ChatGPT functions because it scans the internet. I know it says they used documents and stuff, but I don't believe that for a minute. They are scraping the internet, repackaging stuff and giving it to you. But then when people put that information back out on the internet, eventually they're just going to be scraping their own information. So if it's not source information. At one point, the internet was just source information.
Yes. Yes,
You
it was.
got original documents,
Mm-hmm.
and then people started collating that information and combining it, and then you got a second generation bit of information, and third and fourth and fifth, and it functions kind of like the telephone game, where
Yes.
it tends to lose something along the way. My mother used to say, quote your source. Drove me crazy for the longest time when I was a kid. But it was a valuable piece of information that she told me about. And when you look at stuff on the internet, you need to be curious. And it kind of goes back to the whole listening thing. You you do in some ways when you're reading, listen in your head.
Yes.
And if you're not getting accurate information, and if you're not questioning the information that you're getting and trying to take it back to its source, you could end up in a place you might not want to be. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that the internet doesn't go that direction, but I see the potential for it happening.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you. I think anytime we have a tool, it's meant to be a tool. And if you must bring your own intelligence to use that tool properly. I mean, just like my grandfather used to use his hoe in the fields in Iowa, it's the same thing. He knew exactly how to shift that hoe to make that work for him. And so AI is is a tool here now available to me. And but if you don't use it well, it's not gonna get you're gonna have weeds. Let's just leave it at that. You're gonna have weeds.
Definitely going to have weeds.
Yeah.
But on the other side, the images that it creates, amazing.
Yeah, I'm really excited that you told me about that. I haven't found the right ones for images. I'm not a graphic designer at all. It's like I mentioned, one of the things I struggle with. And so knowing some tools for that's going to be really exciting. There is a carousel AI that I use that has been helpful for LinkedIn, creating
Mhm.
carousels there. But yeah, it's interesting. It's a new development, and they're popping up all over every day. Yeah. Hard to keep up
They,
with.
yeah, they really are. And they are helpful if you can use them as the tool. If you know, it's a hoe.
Yeah.
It's not sentient. I know people want to think that AI is going to become sentient and rule the world, but it it's always going to be a program.
Yeah.
It doesn't have innate intelligence.
Yeah, one of the movies that our family has always loved a lot is Bicentennial Man. Do you know the story? Do you know, have
Mhm.
you? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was really leading edge. Isaac Asimov, I believe, was the original author of the story, and Robin Williams brought it to life through the movie Bicentennial Man. It's a fascinating story, and it definitely, I think, I haven't watched it for a few years, but maybe I should watch it again because it kind of feels like it's really relevant for today.
Yeah. A lot of those 1950s stories that we read,
Hmm.
40s, 50s, pretty interesting. I remember Ray Bradbury's The Veldt. It was a story of rooms that they were essentially television screens that covered the whole wall. And these kids were watching a movie about the Veldt in Africa with lions, and they brought their parents in and they left, and the parents got eaten by the lions. But every time I see these huge television screens, I think of that story. It's like,
Wow. I wasn't
and you know,
traumatized
the
with that one.
metaverse as it
Uh-huh.
exists, and they're trying to make it, more and more realistic. And it's like, I don't know where it's going. It's kind of interesting.
We also offer listening appointments at Holden. So one of the things that we've thought about is maybe people would feel more comfortable in a virtual chat room rather than in conversation like a Zoom room. Maybe people, so that's why we do over phone, Zoom, and chat. And eventually we kind of thought, well, we'll put it in the pot, and maybe down the road, that's something that we'll offer. So
Zoom does some interesting things as far as
yes, they
the
do.
way you the way you can see people in groups. I just learned about that fairly recently. I thought that was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it's quite common that Linda will become cowgirl, and she'll show up with her caricature with her hat. She likes to play with that a lot.
Yeah, yeah. There's all kinds of. There was somebody who had a story about they were in a board meeting on Zoom, and he had been a frog or something. And he couldn't get the frog picture to go away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's trying to be so professional, and
Yeah, not so much. But
yeah,
I feel like too, when that happens, it shows our humanity. It shows if people can just be playful with it. I mean, obviously he might have been embarrassed, but isn't it beautiful that if I wish he could reframe it for himself, he'll probably never hear this, but if he could imagine and just know how happy other people were that who heard about this, that he was playing with people and having fun with the young people in his life, right? And engaging them and meeting them where they are. That's powerful. Sometimes we get so stuck in our adult frame of mind that we don't just let ourselves play and um, imagine. So
yeah. And imagine is where all the magic begins, because
truly.
if everything that ever existed started in someone's imagination, and it's so powerful. If you can imagine yourself doing something or being something or experiencing something and really get the details of it down in your imagination, daydreaming, whoever said you should never daydream, they should be banished. Banished from my kingdom, I tell you, because that's where things happen.
Kermit the Frog, the lovers, the dreamers, and me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
So how do people actually work with you?
So a couple of different ways. If somebody just needs someone to listen and their family, friends, or coworkers are too close to the problem or worse are the problem and you just need somebody to hear you, I do that. I've trained a team to do that. Additionally, this course is available. People can take the course and learn the listening skills, and they may very well find that as they apply the listening skills in their life, their relationships will not only deepen, but the people around them will also start listening to them better as they model it and show others this is how you do it. If somebody wants my help in understanding and applying, going through that course, there's a way you can add on time with me. I'll help you. Happy to do that. I see it more as mentoring than coaching. I believe everybody has the answers inside themselves. And so it's just a matter of helping you find that. I know some coaches believe that too. So it's a bit of murky water maybe for some there. Anyway, how else can people work with me? I do speaking engagements. If you're a business happening to or own a business and happen to be listening to this, I'm happy to come in and train your team. I'm happy to do some one-on-one mentoring as well. So yeah, lots of different ways.
Is perfect. And they can reach you through
hearingoutlife.drama.com. Yep. hearingoutlife.drama.com. It's okay. It's long, but the fact is, hold was already taken. All the other things. So again,
or very expensive, no doubt.
Yeah. So we ended up with hearingoutlife.drama.com. So
I like it. I wasn't so worried about it being long. I was trying to read my handwriting. My other calling was probably doctor, only because I already have the handwriting. I should have just gone with the education. So, Deb, is there one thing you want to leave the audience with today?
I just love to let them know that if you are wanting to be a better listener, it's possible. You might feel frustrated in your relationships right now and think, it's not going to help. But in reality, it will. It will. Give it a try and allow yourself to go through that learning process, because anytime you learn something, it is a process, and it can really make a difference. So
it really can. And as you said before, I think once you learn to listen, other people learn to listen too. It's kind of a reciprocal thing. When you're doing something, it mirrors back at you with the people that you're trying to communicate with. And it's kind of a ripple effect. You take the stand and figure something out, and then it happens to impact your whole family and your community. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing you're doing, Deb.
I got goosebumps all over again. I love it when people talk about the ripples, because that is exactly what I envision. It's exactly what I imagine. That I want those ripples to go everywhere so that everybody feels heard. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. And being the hearer is the first step in a community of people that really do listen to you. Yes, it is. It really
Thank you so much for joining me. It's been an amazing conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
Good. Thanks, Jill. I did too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order, or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.